And welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Tom Fornelli. I'm Chip Patterson coming to you live at youtube.com/Cover3 and everywhere you get your podcasts on demand. Thanks for hanging out. Smash that subscribe, smash that like, and come and join us in the chat because you see those sirens in your feed. You know exactly what that means. Oregon State has moved on Trent Bray. Yes. But also,
wow, yeah. I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh at Trent Bray like that. I just did not expect it. Sorry.
Yeah. So listen, because that did happen. What, an hour ago? Maybe an hour or two ago, a couple hours ago. There's always the debate with any of these. Is it going to be the siren or not? But yeah, when Penn State announces on Sunday, as the Nittany Lions lost their third straight game on Saturday, a changing in leadership. Yeah, that's right. Penn State has fired James Franklin, an official release from the school. Penn State owes an enormous amount of gratitude to Coach Franklin, who rebuilt our football program into a national power. He won a Big Ten championship, led us to 7 New Year's 6 bowl games and a college football playoff appearance last year. However, we hold our athletics programs to the highest of standards, and we believe it is the right moment for new leadership at the helm of our football program to advance us towards Big Ten and national championships. That coming from, let's see, AD, right? Patrick Kraft? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, Tom, we're not even talking about buyout. We're not even talking about mutual parting of ways. I think Penn State just passed the hat and did it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened. And I mean, I'm surprised. Like we discussed it last night, but I thought that we were going to see a situation where this was going to be like a mutual kind of, everybody's just going to take this as an opportunity to kind of break ties and think what's best for both parties going forward. But I don't know, man. I guess James Franklin might have thought, why would I give up that buyout if I don't have to? Which is probably financially wise, but this is just, it came as a shock. I really did not think that was going to happen. Not this quick.
Not like this. So it brings me back to something that we talked about with these September firings at the power conference level, is that you are worried that continuing with no accountability would lead to the whole team checking out.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think these are isolated incidents. But hey, look at UCLA. Like if you as a leadership within the university, within the athletic department, are saying, man, if we just keep going like this, the rot's going to get worse. The losing is going to get more embarrassing. Best chance we have, as our star quarterback is out for the season with an injury, is to take this, youth movement or whatever, interim staff, and hope to be able to go out there and be competitive and, still have happy days in Happy Valley where you compete for a victory. I mean, is that part of this, you think?
Yeah, I think part of it is just, the environment was going to get so freaking toxic.
Okay.
As you go forward, whether the team quit or not, like, you were going to have an empty stadium, or at least just fans at the stadium kind of, yelling things the entire time. No, everybody was going to be miserable. Like, this is a team, and think of like how quickly this all just completely collapsed. This was a team that in the preseason was, number 2 in the AP poll. People were talking about him as a national title contender. A few weeks ago, they were up in overtime against Oregon. And now, 3 weeks later, their coach is fired, like the longest tenured coach in the Big Ten, and he's gone. And it's just, it's incredible. Like it goes to show how quickly things can change in this sport, in this new era. And it's very much a surprise. And I don't know if it's going to be a move Penn State regrets or not, but it is a risky move. Like, Bud went over it last night. We went over it a little bit. Like, you fire one of these coaches, it's not always a guarantee. In fact, it rarely happens that you get the results you want when the results aren't good enough, but you're competing at the level Penn State's been competing at. And I think that right now you look at the situation, James Franklin took over that job. And in truth, like, he dragged that program out of the Stone Age.
Yeah.
Penn State was still very much operating in like an idyllic 1985 kind of way, where it's like, we're going to do it the right way, blah, blah, blah. And Franklin modernized the operation, and he won a whole hell of a lot of games, but he never really broke through to where they wanted to get, to where they were competing for competing for national titles and beating the best of the best. And now they want to find somebody who can beat the best of the best. And I don't know that coach is available. I don't know. Like, I still think there's a lot of changes that Penn State needs to make, but I do think that they have the program that's capable of doing so because of the clear commitment now financially. If they're willing to spend this money to move on, and the recruiting base that they have and the history that they have and the brand name that they have, it's there. But this is going to be a pivotal hire.
Since 2019, I mean, just even take it back to 2016, you have top 10 finishes in 16, 17, 2019, 22, and 24. 104 wins and just 45 losses.
James Franklin will only be on the market as long as he decides he wants to be on the market. That's the reality of the situation. Like, he's going to be, if there's going to be plenty of schools that want to hire James Franklin this offseason, whether he wants to take it or not, I don't know. It'll depend on probably the offset language in the buyout.
Yes.
I mean, because James could go do TV for a year and be really good at it and then go get a job.
Listen, no, now's not. This is a more serious conversation. I'm not going to keep the bit going now. The bit
do it.
I mean, you can come be an analyst, just hang out. I'm just trying to introduce the idea of just living in the area. That's all. So
James on the pod, he can come in on reaction shows on Saturday night.
I would love to have James Franklin.
I would love James on this show.
James, I know you're a big fan of the Cover 3 podcast. We'd love to have you come join the Cover 3 podcast. Any one of us are replaceable for you, sir. For Penn State, do you think, and this is a very odd question, do you think if they beat Oregon, all of this changes?
Yeah.
I know.
Yes. God, yes. Like,
college football is so funny that, to your point, and like, yeah, Oregon was up 17-3, but Penn State came back and they were playing at home and they went into overtime. And if Penn State wins that thing in overtime, I mean, that is the narrowest of margins between charging ahead, looking like a Big Ten and national title favorite, and firing your like extremely successful 100-win coach just a couple weeks later. I mean, wild.
I think the funniest
that's
possible
why I'm surprised. You're right. Like you said right at the top. I'm still a little bit of like, oh
yeah,
okay.
I mean, I know the winds were going this way, but if you can't pretend. Like, I see a lot of people saying that this isn't a shock. Like 3 weeks ago, what were the odds of this happening?
I mean, Bailey in the tailgate does say it's very simple. Just don't lose to UCLA and Northwestern. We talk about the sliding doors of the first one, and I understand the impact, but yeah, just don't lose those games. Penn State, I did not watch all of it down to down heading into the instant reaction show last night. Penn State played well enough to win that game.
Penn State,
they just duffed
Connolly tweeted out, like, he does every week, the post-game win expectancies.
Is it up there?
I think Northwestern had like a 27% post-game win expectancy.
Yeah.
Something in that area.
Crazy. And I think maybe if they win against Northwestern, that we're not having this instant reaction pod.
If Drew Aller doesn't throw an interception in the red zone on the very first possession of the game, are we having this discussion right now?
Well, this is the reality we're living in. Okay,
I know, but those are the margins we're dealing with here.
Okay, we will start to get a little bit into the what's next for Penn State here in just a little bit. What about what is there left? Do you think that this leads to a dramatic adjustment in terms of I know for the Penn State fan experience, it totally changes the way that we're going through the rest of the season. What about for us? We're going to have to keep talking about this team. It's still Penn State. They're going to be going out there and they're going to be, playing and competing out the rest of their schedule. How does that change your expectations for the Nittany Lions?
Pretty dramatically. Like, I don't know. Have they named an interim yet?
I don't see it in the release. I've got it pulled up right now.
Be kind of weird if it was Jim Knowles, wouldn't it? But like,
oof.
You've lost your starting quarterback for the year and you fired your coach. I don't think that those two things within the span of 12 hours of one another is going to fix anything. I think it's going to make it worse. And we talked last night, their next 3 games are at Iowa, at Ohio State, and then Indiana. they're probably going to get their ass kicked in their next 3 games. So now you're sitting there at 3-6, needing to win out against Michigan State, Nebraska, and Rutgers to get to a bowl. But, like, are you even going to be trying at that point? Like, I feel like the situations that we see now in this portal era, like you always saw when a coach got fired, a lot of the coaches on that staff kind of start figuring out where they're going to be next year, start, putting irons in the fire, trying to find a landing spot as they're getting off the boat. Players are doing the same thing now, Chip, because there's a lot of people on this team who are going to be graduating and have no eligibility left. And a lot of the guys that are back up on the depth charts are going to be asking themselves, do I want to risk this new staff coming in and bringing in their own people and recruiting over me? Like, or am I better off looking for another landing spot elsewhere? And that's really what the final 2 months of this season is probably going to be for Penn State football, getting your ass kicked and wondering about 2026.
I will say, if you are a Penn State fan and you're looking for something to grab a hold of, former wide receiver and current cornerbacks and associate head coach Terry Smith is going to be the interim head coach. That's somebody who obviously has, led a very strong room there in the defensive backfield. He's been a big part of their recruiting efforts. He's a former Penn State player. So if you want to hope that your boys are going to be out there making your alma mater proud, I think this is probably a good pick. If it was Jim Knowles, that would have been awkward. So yeah, Terry Smith takes over as your interim coach, leading the Nittany Lions the rest of the year. Well, coming up on the other side, we'll turn the page. What's next for Penn State? A laundry list of potential candidates based on connections. What might be the best fit and more next.
Only CBS Sports can bring you big time during the heart of Saturday afternoons. It's big time.
It's big time. It's big time. It's big time.
On CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Back here on the Cover 3 podcast, continuing to react to the news that James Franklin is out as Penn State head coach, effective immediately. Terry Smith taking over as interim coach. The university making the announcement right here on Sunday afternoon after Penn State lost its 3rd straight game, falling to Oregon, falling to UCLA, and then on Saturday falling to Northwestern 0-3 in conference play. So Terry Smith leads the Nittany Lions the rest of the way, but who leads the Nittany Lions out of the tunnel in 2026?
I'm going to get this out of the way because this
Mike
is going to be a tough truth to swallow for Penn State fans. And I know that on the surface, based on everything you know of from college football, it won't make sense. Curt Cignetti's not leaving Indiana for Penn State. In 2025, we don't know for a fact that Penn State is a better job than Indiana. Curt Cignetti in the last few weeks has more top 10 wins at Indiana than James Franklin has at Penn State. Indiana has had a ton of financial support boosted into that program in recent years. Indiana is having the success that Penn State has been trying to have for years and was not able to have. There is no reason for Curt Cignetti to start over and move to Penn State when he's literally got it humming right the hell now at Indiana. He might win the Big Ten at Indiana. He's going to get to the college football playoff. I know that a whole lot of Penn State fans are going to want him. And in a vacuum, you think, well, clearly Penn State's better than Indiana. I don't know that it is. Not in this modern era. Things have changed really quickly. Indiana right now is looking like a very similar job to Penn State. So I would get over that. I do not think you're going to get Cignetti from Indiana. I think Indiana will pay him whatever the hell they have to keep him. And I do think he's going to get a raise. So if I am Penn State, I at least float out there that I'm going after him to force Indiana to pay up more. I think the more realistic options that you're going to hear are Matt Rule and Matt Campbell. It's going to be one of the Matts. That is my prediction. I think that Matt Rule, obviously he has the ties to Penn State. Nebraska's off to a 5-1 start. This was not great news for you if you're Nebraska. You don't really want to be hearing this right now while things are going well, but Rule's probably going to be distracted over these next couple of weeks. And then Matt Campbell at Iowa State. This is a big job. This is a Midwest job. Like, we've had his name floated for SEC gigs and like West Coast gigs in recent years, but Matt Campbell is an Ohio guy who coaches in Iowa who kind of wants to be in this area of the country. this is one of those jobs that I feel like Matt Campbell would give serious consideration to leaving Iowa State for. And I think Matt Campbell would be a great coach at Penn State. I also think that he would need to help with the recruiting operation because he has not played in those waters at Iowa State. Not to say he hasn't recruited well because he's developed plenty of NFL players, but he hasn't brought in like the 4- and 5-star talent that Penn State's going to be going after. But I think he could do it, and I think he's going to build a great culture, and I think he's a very good coach. So if Penn State ends up with him, I would be thrilled if I'm a Penn State fan. I'd probably be more thrilled with that than Matt Rule.
So is that, if you're going to have the hard talk with Penn State fans about your relationship to Indiana, then that means the follow-up is, are you having a hard talk with Nebraska fans about where you are compared to Penn State?
Yeah, but I think Nebraska fans kind of know that.
Okay.
I think there are some older Nebraska fans who probably still think Nebraska's at the same level, but I think most Nebraska fans at like 45 and under understand the pecking order.
Yeah. And if you're Iowa State, that just might be that would be a tough thing to see go. But man, Matt Campbell's done a lot of good at Iowa State. His track record it maybe has been transformative. We'll see with whoever would take over. Again, if that even happens, Matt Campbell had power conference interest last season and kind of let it be known that he'd prefer to stay. And but those options weren't Penn State.
No.
So they're
like little rinky-dink North Carolina. You know, he wants a real program.
Yeah. There's where Penn State fits among the top 5 and top 10 sort of jobs available or jobs overall. Whenever you try to rank a college football job, I'll tell you one thing: it is the best job that is available right now. And in terms of trying to think about that, like you mentioned Curt Cignetti, and you mentioned you go after him. You want to know why you go after Curt Cignetti? Not because he's got some area ties in Pennsylvania. No, you go after him because he's one of the best coaches around right now. And if you're Penn State and you are the best job available, you go and you make these people say no. So yeah, of course you give Curt Cignetti a call. So I tend to lean with you somewhere with the Matt Rule emotion, the vibes. I could see it going because this is a group. This is a group that needs some positive vibes. Our poor Penn State fans. They were riding so high. They had the Eagles. They were in the Final Four of the playoff. Tough crash out. Tough. Who else, if you're a head coach, are you hoping the search gets to you realistically?
I mean, like to use it for a raise or because you're interested in the gig?
Oh, because you would love to be interviewed. Because if the search came to you, you'd be like, yeah. Because if all coaches have egos, all coaches would think, I mean, you give me Penn State, I can go win.
I mean, I think of like current sitting head coaches that would be worth going after, like with like genuine interest. Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri. I don't know how interested he would be in the job, but I think Eli, you look at what he's been doing at Missouri. You look at the fact that he's been able to recruit very well at Missouri. Like Missouri is a very good program and it has financial backing, but it's also in the SEC where it's got to compete with Alabama, Georgia, Texas now, Oklahoma, all these schools that it's probably going to have a more difficult time. Like if you go to Penn State, you don't have as many obstacles in your way and maybe you can overcome that.
Manny Diaz?
No, I don't think Manny Diaz is meant for these gigs. I think Manny Diaz at Duke is like a perfect spot for Manny Diaz. Because Manny Diaz has some faults on game day that fly under the radar when he's coaching at Duke. If Manny Diaz was coaching at Penn State against Ohio State, those faults would be seen pretty quickly and they would be very vocal about it and it would not be happy. What if does Brian Kelly restart the clock?
I mean, there are worse places to land on a lateral move, restart the clock than Penn State, especially to your point about, and I'm not trying to go all in on him, but like, especially for somebody who just brought the recruiting operation. You mentioned about how he brought the whole operation into the modern era. I wasn't inside that building before. I wasn't very familiar with what was going on. Thankfully, I can plead. I knew nothing about what was going on with the previous regimes, but James Franklin's recruiting operation you've got a Penn State building and community and university that knows what it takes to at least field a championship roster. So Brian Kelly should step in and be able to have everything running. There's worse places.
Let me ask you this hypothetical. because the one job's open and the one ain't yet, but it might be. You're Lane Kiffin. You have the choice of Florida or Penn State. Which one do you take?
Am I Lane Kiffin?
Yeah, you're Lane Kiffin.
Florida.
I think you're right. I think Lane Kiffin prefers that lifestyle down there, but I do feel like going to Florida, he'd be in a similar situation to the one he is in now.
That may be true, but there's something to be said for all those like meetings, the spring meetings and the like ballrooms. And we make fun of the what happens when they get all these athletic directors and coaches, but I kind of feel like he runs that room. I mean, if he just switches a polo out, he's still Lane. If he goes to the Big Ten, that's a whole new culture he's got to get used to him and that he's got to get used to. An intra-SEC move means Lane can keep being Lane all the time. So that's why I would say Florida. If Florida was open, if Lane doesn't decide to stay at Ole Miss, Rebels fans.
There's been some chatter in the chat. I don't know because the way the season's going for them the last few weeks, but you're Syracuse. Is Fran Brown, like how far down the list would Fran Brown be for Penn State?
Ooh.
Because we know he's going to be able to recruit the crap out of that program being there. And you know that, like, just personality-wise, I think he could handle that job. Although I don't know. Fran might be a little rough around the edges for Penn State.
Yeah.
But Syracuse, it could be a similar situation to Manny. Fran's a little honest, and I don't know how that would play all the time.
F-bombs at regular Wednesday media availability.
Yeah. Like in a conversation with me off air, I think we'd get along. It'd be perfect because I swear a lot more when I'm not on this show. But I just feel like I think Fran doesn't have the same filter I do.
Yeah. Fran with sitting up there with the university like president and the provost and a bunch of board people. He's like, you seen this offensive line? They're effing nice.
Mm-hmm.
Urban Meyer?
No, come on, guys.
Dan Mullen?
He's not the top of the list, but he'll be on the list. I think he's somebody you interview. And if a couple guys say no, I don't know if it would. I don't feel like if I'm a Penn State fan and we hire Dan Mullen, as much as I love Dan Mullen, I don't know if I'm super thrilled about it.
I did not have this person in mind when I mentioned the prompt, but now it seems to be one of the answers. I said, who, if you're sitting out there, you would really hope if the search ends up getting to you? Cincinnati Bengals defensive coordinator Al Golden. I mean,
Al should be consulted. Al should be interviewed.
Yeah. Yes. Hey, Al, how's it? Wait, hello? He said he's on his way to the airport. He's already wearing the tie.
Al, no, we didn't offer you. No. This is going to be awkward.
How about this? I'll just sit outside and you just tell me, okay? Because, I mean, I was especially thinking about the current state of the Cincinnati Bengals and just how miserable that must be. Hi, you're the defensive coordinator for the team who's lost its star quarterback and, like, its offense is falling apart. It's a tough season for Al.
Let's do a bit of a 360 here.
Okay.
180. We're talking about who Penn State gets to hire James Franklin. I had the hypothetical about Florida Penn State a minute ago if you're Lane Kiffin. Does James Franklin being fired today and having his contract bought out, which means you don't have to pay a buyout to hire him away from Penn State anymore, does this change the calculus at Florida? Does it change the calculus at Auburn? Does it change the calculus of a lot of other jobs who feel like they can make a run at James Franklin?
Yes.
I agree. Like if I'm Hugh Freeze or Billy Napier, I had a chill going down my spine about now.
Yeah, games on. Mm-hmm. This is, James Franklin's out there.
How about LSU? I just feel like there's a lot of jobs that were still kind of up in the air, and now having this guy on the market is going to impact a lot of decisions. Now, obviously, there will be feelers behind the scenes, but now that James Franklin is no longer the coach at Penn State, you can much more easily put those feelers out there and find out how interested he is in that gig.
It was historically bad, but I don't think that whoever takes over is going to have to dig it out of some trench. And what I mean by historically bad was the multiple losses as a heavy favorite. First AP top 10 since 1985 to lose to a team 0-4 or worse. The fact that Franklin had 15 consecutive losses against AP top 6 teams, it's it had gotten toxic, but the program is still an amazing opportunity for some coach to be able to jump on.
Yeah, this is such a tremendously interesting move because of the impact that it's going to have everywhere.
What is any other thoughts on names, or just sort of like where your mind goes in terms of what's next? Because in some ways there's a little bit of finality here. Instead of us spending the next 3 weeks being like, oh God, like, so when are they just going to go their separate ways? Like, rip the Band-Aid off. I mean, that's somebody cares a lot about Penn State football and has decided to be a main character in this football program's history. Whether it's the right move or not, we'll see.
Or that private equity deal went through.
And we just don't know it yet.
Penn State's already burning the cash.
I was listening to Tim Pernetti is the commissioner of the American. And because of some of his private sector work, I feel like he speaks the equity language. Like, he can break it down. And he said, look, if a conference does a deal, doesn't mean that every school is going to take the cash. It just means that, you've got that stuff available. And he used an example talking about the American. He was like, maybe ECU says we don't want any, but UAB is like, yes, absolutely. We're going to take this on. And now I'm thinking about that story as I'm thinking about deal went through on Friday and Penn State's like maxed out their withdrawals.
Only because you said it. If the American got some private equity and UAB said, yes, we want that money, how much of that is actually Alabama taking the money through UAB and then filtering it into the Crimson Tide football program? Like 95% of that cash? Is that how that's going to happen?
Not going to weigh in on that one. Those politics are too deep. Hey, so James Franklin, now any of the other hot seat jobs, he would be a good hire or a decent or a likely.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, how many coaches are going to be literally like in reality on the market that are better coaches than James Franklin?
Like really, like honestly going to be on the market?
On the market. Like Ryan Day's not on the market. Kirby Smart's not on the market. Like Urban Meyer is not on the market, no matter how badly you want him to be. How many are better than James Franklin?
0.
Yeah, of course. He's going to, if he wants a job, he's going to have whatever the hell job he wants. Period. Point blank. And I hope it's in the Big Ten.
Man had an Ohio State problem, but that Ohio State problem has gotten him tens of millions of dollars, perhaps a little bit of a fresh start. So yeah, I agree with you. He's going to be the most sought after candidate for power conference jobs. He could work literally anywhere from coast to coast.
And when I say I hope it's in the Big Ten, it's only because I want to be able to interview him at Big Ten Media Days again for the show next year.
Yeah. And again, or he comes to the Cover 3 podcast.
Yeah,
then we get to talk all the time. Yeah, absolutely. All right, one last one here. Clark Lee would be on my list. I would not expect him to leave Vanderbilt, right?
I don't think Clark's leaving Vanderbilt, but this is a kind of job I feel like would be appealing.
Yeah.
If Clark's goal is to just be at the alma mater and be the greatest coach in Vanderbilt history, then I think he could do that. If his goal is to compete for national titles, then he's going to leave at some point. But I know it's been a while, but how do you feel about going back to the Vandy well if you're Penn State?
Fair.
I mean, It worked for you last time.
For those who might have just joined the stream late, just to where we started the candidates discussion, I'll go ahead and throw my support behind your initial. And again, this literally just happened even at the top of this hour. So we are still sort of processing this all. But I like your call for the starting point. The Matts. And then that would be Matt Rule at Nebraska. That would be Matt Campbell at Iowa State. 2 very good coaches. 2 coaches that obviously for the Matt Rule angle of this, you've got the emotional connection to Penn State and Matt Campbell. He's done it. That's given him the opportunity, given him a little bit of a bigger car, seeing if he could go win some big races. So
yeah. And if power ranking who I think would be the better hire, I would have Matt Campbell above Matt Rule.
If you were power ranking how your response would be?
If I was putting together my list of candidates.
Right.
Because again, I don't think you're getting Cignetti. My next option would be Matt Campbell.
Would there be any coordinators you would go for?
For sure.
Okay.
I just don't know if I'm interviewing coordinators because I'm trying to get information.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't know if I'm spending $50 million to get rid of James Franklin to hire an unproven coach. I don't feel like
I'd forgotten about what you spent to make this hire, to be like, well, you don't get rid of James Franklin for a let's see if it works type hire. Yeah.
Like, I mean, but to be fair, like Oregon went after an unproven head coach at coordinator in Lanning, and it's working well for them. So it's not to say it can't work. It's just Mario left. They didn't pay a whole bunch of money for him to leave. I just don't feel like you make this move and then you go for an inexperienced guy unless you absolutely know, and that you never know.
Glenn Schumann, come on down.
Listen, I think Glenn Schumann would have a great argument for the gig. I think that, I mean, I don't know if like culturally he's a fitter if he wants to be coaching in the Big Ten, but if Penn State's goal is to compete for national championships, Glenn Schumann's been at a program that knows what you have to do.
Yeah. Yep. All right. We will, of course, be keeping this conversation rolling. Oh, any last words, Oregon State, Trent Bray?
Come home, Jonathan Smith. Maybe this is what's best for everybody involved here too.
Yep. I mean, it was getting bad for the Beavs. We'll see what happens after the shakeup. See if they're able to bounce back and make the most out of the rest of this season. We will be back on Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, continuing the conversation here about James Franklin out at Penn State. What's next for the Nittany Lions, Franklin, and more. But it will also be our final stamp on a wild Week 7 that included, among other things, that Penn State loss to Northwestern. So make sure you come and hang out again, 11 a.m. Eastern time, youtube.com/cover3. And you can follow him on Twitter at Tom Fornelli. You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. Tom, thank you very much.
James Franklin got fired before Billy Napier, Hugh Freeze, and Luke Fickell.